Graduation day. I'd imagined it for years, not for the speeches, or the pictures, or the gown. For the moment. That moment when you finally feel seen. When the years of work, late nights, breakdowns, and quiet rebuilding pay off. When your name gets called and someone in the crowd claps for you. I waited for that moment. It never came. I stood outside the auditorium in a sea of hugs, flowers, and families taking blurry photos on cracked phone screens. Everywhere I looked, someone was being celebrated. I kept checking my phone. No text. No missed call. No, we're on our way. Nothing. Cynthia and Greg, my parents, had confirmed they'd be there weeks ago. Bought a hotel room. Even asked where to park. And now, radio silence. At first, I made excuses. Traffic. Phone battery. A mix-up with the time. A wrong door. Maybe. I waited by the entrance for 45 minutes. My cap slipping off, heels aching, holding my diploma like it was a receipt for a promise no one else was keeping. Then I called. Straight to voicemail. Tried again. Then texted. Hey, are you still coming? Ceremony's over. Everyone's leaving. Read. No reply. Another 5 minutes. Then a message popped up from Jake, my middle brother. They're not coming, Sabrina. No punctuation. No explanation. Just a sentence that cracked something wide open. I called him immediately. What do you mean? He sighed. They left town this morning. Said something about Lena needing them more. I felt my chest tighten. Who's Lena? Silence. Then, she's kind of their new foster kid. I blinked. Wait, what? He continued, carefully, like he wasn't sure if he was supposed to be telling me. They've had her for a few weeks. Mom didn't want to overwhelm her, so they canceled the trip. Didn't want to leave her alone. No warning. No heads up. No call. They'd replace my graduation with someone else's adjustment period. I didn't even get angry at first. Just hollow. Like someone had reached into my chest and unplugged something I didn't know was running. I went home that night. Took off the gown. Hung up the diploma on the wall. Sat in silence. Then I tried calling again. Blocked. I tried my mom's phone. Blocked. Then my dad's. Same. No goodbye. No, we'll explain later. Just gone. Like I was never theirs to begin with. The worst part? I didn't cry right away. I cleaned. I wiped down the counters. Folded laundry. Rearranged the magnets on my fridge. Because when the people who raised you decide you're optional, you start trying to prove you're stable, even to no one. That night, Jake texted again. They're saying you've become distant. That you're making everything about yourself. I stared at the message, rereading it like it was in a language I hadn't learned yet. I didn't even know they had someone else in the house, I wrote back. He didn't reply. A week passed. Then 2. Nothing. No contact. No effort. No birthday acknowledgement when mine came around. Just a wall of silence that felt like it had been waiting to fall long before I noticed the cracks. And then, about a month later, I got a DM. Not from Cynthia, or Greg, or even Jake. From a girl I'd never met. Her profile picture was soft. New. Like someone just getting the hang of being online. It read, Hey, I'm sorry if this is weird. I found your number in the family email. I'm Lena. I think I'm your foster sister. That message from Lena sat in my inbox for a full hour before I opened it again. Not because I was angry. Because I didn't know what I was about to walk into. I wasn't prepared for kindness from the person who replaced me. But that's what it was. Her next message read, I hope it's okay that I reached out. Your name was on a bunch of stuff in the house. I didn't want to be weird. I just wanted to say hi. It wasn't weird. It was surreal. I replied, carefully. Hi, Lena. Yeah, that's okay. Hope you're settling in all right. She responded almost instantly. It's been good. They're intense. But they're trying. It's just a lot sometimes. Something about that line, they're trying, made me pause. Because I knew that version of them. The early phase. When they put on their smiles. The check-ins. The supportive silence that feels real, until you need something inconvenient. We exchanged a few more messages. Light stuff. She asked what my favorite color was. I asked what kind of music she liked. Then, unprompted, she sent one more. I'm sorry they didn't go to your graduation. They said you didn't want them there. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then typed. That's not true. She sent back a confused face emoji. Wait, really? Really? I invited them. They confirmed. Then they left town without telling me. She didn't reply for 10 minutes. Then, well, that's not what they told me. I asked her gently what they had said. She hesitated. Just that you distanced yourself. That you didn't like how they parented. That you were angry and didn't want to talk to them anymore. Classic Cynthia and Greg. Rewrite the story. Make yourself the victim. Frame the silence as self-protection. I asked if they'd said anything else. And then Lena said something that made my blood run cold. They said if you reached out, not to trust you right away. That you were unstable and could be manipulative when upset. There it was. The real reason I was blocked. The truth wasn't that they forgot me. The truth was that they'd preemptively rewritten me, turned me into the problem before I even knew there was one. I felt sick. Lena sent one more message. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say I don't believe it. You seem kind. I stared at that line for a long time. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was the most compassion I'd received from anyone in that family in months. And it came from the girl who replaced me. That night, I looked through old photos. Not out of nostalgia, more like evidence gathering. Me and Cynthia baking. Me and Greg at a piano recital. Me sitting in the back of a family photo with Jake and Drew while Bryce held the dog and got all the attention. All of it looked real, but none of it felt real anymore. Because all it took was one decision, one moment of quiet removal, to make it clear how conditional that love had always been. The next morning, Jake called. First time since graduation. I picked up. Hey. He sounded off. Not angry. Not cheerful. Just tired. I heard Lena reached out. She did. She wasn't supposed to. That made me pause. Why not? He sighed. Because they're scared you'll turn her against them. I almost laughed. Why would I need to do that? They're doing a great job themselves. Jake didn't argue, which told me he knew. He'd always been the middle one, too soft to stand up, too close to them to fully pull away. But that day, he said something I'll never forget. They were different when you left. Hey guys, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment if you have any feedback. Let's go to the story. For a while. Quieter. Kind of bitter. I don't think they ever forgave you for growing up without needing them. I didn't know what to say. So I just said. I didn't leave. They stopped seeing me. He didn't fight it. Didn't push back. He just said, I'm sorry I didn't come to the graduation. And that, more than anything, cracked something open in me. Not anger. Not forgiveness. Just honesty. Because of the people who love you? They don't disappear when you stop making it easy for them to stay. They reach. Even if it's late. Even if it's messy. And that one text from a stranger? That was the reach I needed. After Jake's apology, something shifted in me. Not dramatically. Not overnight. But I stopped feeling like I owed anyone silence. For weeks, I'd been walking on emotional glass, terrified that even acknowledging what happened would make me seem petty, dramatic, and bitter. But now, I was done pretending that their version of the story was the only one allowed to exist. So I started speaking. Not to fight. Just to be real. When Lena messaged again, I didn't hold back. She said, They told me you used to lie about stuff. That you twisted stories to make them look bad. And I answered, simply. They said the same thing when I stopped going to church with them. When I asked questions about college. When I chose my apartment, I decided not to stay in the house until I was married. Every time I chose differently, I became a problem, not a person. She took a long time to reply. Then, finally, I said, That explains a lot. She asked if I was mad at her. I said no, because Lena didn't do this. She was just the newest recipient of Cynthia and Greg's curated version of love. Warm, intense, and completely conditional. The same kind I'd had for years, until I started making decisions they couldn't control. Jake called again a few days later. He asked if I wanted to come over for a small family dinner. Said Drew would be there too. At first, I almost said yes, out of habit, out of hope. Then I asked, Are Cynthia and Greg going to be there? He hesitated. They said they might swing by. But it's not about them. Then why is it happening at their house? He didn't have an answer. And that told me everything. I declined. Politely. Finally. I don't need a seat at a table where I have to shrink myself just to be tolerated. Jake didn't push. He just said, They're not doing well with Lena now. I raised an eyebrow. Why? Because she asked if you were right. That sentence hit harder than it should have. Because it meant the story was unraveling. Not because I shouted. Not because I exposed them online. But because the truth, the actual truth, doesn't need volume. Just time. And Lena had started doing what I was never allowed to. Ask questions. Later that week, she texted again. They don't like it when I bring you up. It makes the room go tense. I asked her if she was okay. She replied, "I'm starting to feel like I'm not supposed to be curious. Like I'm only allowed to be grateful." I told her something I wish someone had told me. You're allowed to be grateful and still have boundaries. Their love doesn't stop being love just because you have questions, unless it was never love to begin with. She didn't respond right away, but I knew it landed. That night, I sat with the realization that I didn't miss them. Not the way I thought I would. I missed the idea of parents who showed up, who supported me without rewriting the narrative to make themselves heroes. But the real versions? I was okay without them. Actually, I was better. Drew messaged me next. He's not the type to reach out. He's been out of state, detached, always kept his head down. His message said, "Saw the group chat. Heard what happened. Just wanted you to know, you're not crazy. I saw it too. All of it." He didn't elaborate. Didn't have to. Sometimes a witness is worth more than 1,000 apologies. I responded, "Thanks for saying that. It means more than you probably know." He liked the message. That was all. And still, it healed more than anything Cynthia or Greg had said in years. I started writing again. Not to vent. To process. To reclaim. Small notes. Blog drafts. Voice memos while walking through the park. And through it all, one thought kept coming back. I don't have to be angry to be honest. I stopped defending my version of the story. Because it doesn't need a defense. It's mine. And the longer I stand in it, the more it holds. Lena called me. Not messaged, called. Her voice was small, but steady. "Can I ask you something, and you promise not to be mad?" I told her I couldn't promise that, but I'd always be honest. She laughed a little, nervous. Then she said, "Did they ever actually see you?" That question hit harder than anything she could have asked, because it wasn't about acknowledgement. It was about recognition. Being seen not as a role, not as the firstborn, or the smart one, or the problem, but as a full person. And the truth was, no. They never did. Not really. I told her. They saw what I did. What could I give? How well I could perform. But when I stopped doing all of that, when I started saying no, they didn't know what to do with me. She didn't speak for a while, then quietly said, "That's starting to happen with me too." I didn't feel vindicated. I felt sad. Because no one should have to prove their worth to be loved, especially not in a place that calls itself family. But that's what Cynthia and Greg had always built. A system based on usefulness, not connection. And when Lena stopped being the perfect new daughter, she became a liability, just like I had. She said, "I asked to go to therapy. They said we should pray on it instead." I exhaled, not because I was shocked, but because it was so familiar, it hurt. "You deserve better," I said. "So did you," she replied. We didn't talk long. She was still trying to navigate the space between survival and clarity. I got it. That space is brutal. But the fact that she called, the fact that she asked, told me she was on her way out of the fog. That night, I sat down with a journal I hadn't opened in over a year. Flipped back to the page where I'd written, "Someday I'll explain all of this. Maybe to them. Maybe just to myself." I crossed it out. Then wrote underneath, "I don't need to explain anything to people who decided my silence was more comfortable than my truth." Jake messaged the next morning. "Mom's upset. Says you're poisoning Lena." I didn't reply. Because that accusation wasn't new. Any time I spoke up, I was the corrupter, the instigator. But truth doesn't poison. It disinfects. And sometimes the sting is just the rot getting exposed. 2 days later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. From Cynthia. No envelope. Just folded paper tucked into the edge of a package someone dropped off anonymously. Inside, it read, "We tried. You made it impossible. You're rewriting everything to make us look bad. Lena's starting to act like you. Cold. Questioning. Pulling away. Congratulations. This is what you wanted, right? No signature. No warmth. No ownership. Just deflection and fear that her story was unraveling." I folded the letter. Tossed it in the drawer with the last one she ever wrote me, the one from graduation week, back when she blocked me. Then I shut the drawer and walked away. Because I'd finally understood something that took me years to learn. You don't need a clean ending to move on. You just need enough clarity to stop looking back. That week, I launched a small blog. Just essays. Nothing viral. Nothing pointed. Just the truth. The first one was titled, "Being cut off isn't the end. Sometimes it's a shortcut to yourself." I didn't name names. I didn't need to. People filled in the blanks with their own stories, Because there are too many of us carrying silence just to keep the peace. And the comments said it all. This made me cry in a grocery store parking lot. I thought I was the only one. You helped me name something I never said out loud. I didn't want revenge, or reconciliation, or to prove anything. I just wanted peace. And for the first time, I had it. Because I finally knew. Leaving wasn't a failure. Silence wasn't strength. And I'm allowed to keep walking, even if they never catch up. I don't talk about them much anymore. Not out of bitterness, that burned out months ago, but because my life is finally too full to make space for people who only showed up when I stayed small. I got my degree framed last week. Hung it in my office above my desk. The same desk I built from scratch, in the house I moved into on my own, in the city I chose with no input from anyone but me. It's just a piece of paper. But when I look at it, I see the girl who sat alone outside her graduation ceremony, waiting for a family that never planned to arrive. And I see the woman who stood up anyway. Lena and I still talk sometimes. Not often, but enough. She moved out a few months after that last call. No drama, no blowout, just a quiet, calm exit. She told me she got tired of being reminded she was lucky every time she had a boundary. She's studying now. Psychology. Wants to help kids like us. I told her she already is. Jake and I text once a month, maybe less. We're not close. But we're not strangers either. He apologized again recently. Said he's been unpacking a lot. Therapy, finally. I didn't protect you, he wrote. I watched it happen and stayed neutral because it was safer. I told him I forgave him. Not because he asked for it. Because I didn't want to carry what wasn't mine anymore. As for Cynthia and Greg, nothing. No calls. No letters. No desperate attempts to rewrite the narrative again. Maybe they've moved on. Maybe they're waiting for me to come back. I won't. Not because I hate them. Because I've outgrown the version of me who needed their validation. And going back would require shrinking into that space again, fitting into a mold I broke for a reason. I built a life that fits me now. One with people who ask questions without judgment. With quiet mornings and loud laughter and peace that doesn't ask me to prove my worth to earn it. I take up space. I speak without apology. I celebrate without wondering who's going to take the joy away afterward. I mentor, write, and create. I spend time with kids who've come out of the same chaos I did and remind them. You're not broken because they couldn't love you right. Sometimes, healing doesn't come with a reunion. It comes with distance. And the freedom to stop asking what you could have done differently. I kept the first text Lena ever sent me. The one that started everything. Now and then, I open it. Not to hurt. To remember. That truth has a way of finding its way through, even when it's been buried, silenced, or rewritten. And once it's out, you don't go back. You build from it. This story doesn't end with an apology, or a reconciliation, or a photo of us all sitting at Thanksgiving pretending we didn't tear each other apart behind closed doors. It ends with this. Me, waking up in a house I love, on a timeline I created, with a version of myself I no longer have to hide. That's enough. More than enough. It's everything.